Hail, hail, and welcome to the 35th edition of the Temporary Stand podcast, and we are a Hail Hail Media production. It's been a grim weekend for those in green and white, and this pod is equally so. Marty hosts Brothers Grimm, Richie and Johnny, as they look through the wreckage of another semi-final Hampden defeat as the Celtics were beaten 3-2 for St Mirren on Sunday. After that, Johnny gives us a comprehensive look back at Celtic participation in this year's Next Gen series, and the lads have a wee speculative look at ours and the ultimate future of the competition itself. Well, I hope you bear with it this week, so nothing left to do but see you on the other side.
Okay, hello, good evening and welcome to the Temporary Stand podcast number 35. It is Sunday night, just gone 9:10. We are here in the wake of yet another Hampden horror show on Sunday against St Mirren in the League Cup semi-final. So tonight joining me from Glasgow is Johnny.
Alright guys.
Alright son, and from down south, Richie.
Good evening.
Evening to you too, mate. So Johnny, start with you. You were in the city today, were you at the game?
I was indeed, I was.
What did you make of that shite?
Well, I was really looking forward to the game. I didn't think we were going to have another horror show, and then St Mirren got a corner in the first minute. And you're kind of like, is it going to be one of these days? And then not one person played well at all. I've seen that Lennon came out and said that Hooper get pass marks because he carried a threat, but his touch was pretty bad today. But we could go through the team individually and say what they all done wrong, because nobody was any good whatsoever. Isagier was getting caught out of position all the time. Matthews had a bit of a nightmare against that Calvis. Wilson came back into a different partnership after being suspended. He was rusty and he was rubbish. Mulgrew, he had a bit of a Jonathan Walters today, didn't he? Misses a penalty and gives away a penalty. And then scores in the last minute just to kind of get up us or something, I don't know. Ledley, Wanyama get took off. When did you see Wanyama getting took off? You know, Brown was running about quite a lot. Samaras, Lassad were pretty rank, and I thought they contributed quite a lot to the problems with the width and getting in each other's way and that kind of thing. And Hooper, he was there for the goal, but his touch was a bit off today. Overall, it's another shocking Hampden performance, and you've got to wonder what the hell's going on with this kind of thing.
Richie, your views today match with Johnny's?
Aye, I wouldn't get any of the players' pass marks. It was just a typical performance we've come to expect for Hampden. I don't know, personally I think the manager has to take a lot of the flack. They don't seem to be prepared or motivated to face small teams at Hampden. They think they just need to turn up and they'll get a result. You should have learned the lessons from Kilmarnock, Ross County. That you need to turn up thinking that you're going to be in a game and ready to go, just like you would be ready to go against Barcelona or Juve or any of those games. You can't just turn up and think, oh, we're going to hammer St Mirren. You need to put in the work and put in the performance, and they never did that. They weren't up for it. When Johnny's went through the team, and I agree with him on everything. Wanyama, I thought it was his worst game in a Celtic shirt. Kelvin Wilson, Charlie Mulgrew. The penalty he hit was just like, I've seen Lennon's. I agreed with Lennon after the game was, why is Charlie Mulgrew side footing a penalty? You put your foot through it and slam it in. And when has he ever hit a penalty for Celtic before, Charlie Mulgrew?
Well, that was going to be my next question. It's nothing about side footing a penalty. Why was Mulgrew taking it in the first place?
I don't know.
Was it because? Well, I'm going to ask you. Was it because other players bottled it, or?
I mean, why would you bottle it? You wouldn't think a player would bottle it one each against St Mirren just after half time. It's not like it was a cup final, it was the last minute or anything like that. I don't know why Hooper never had it. He's the man in form. He's scoring for fun. He'd already scored. You think he would have been the obvious man to take it. I was amazed that Mulgrew went up. But he should be enough. He should be able to hit her. He can hit free kicks. He can score for 25 yards, so you'd expect him to score for 12. But he did a disaster today. I'm not a big fan of Charlie Mulgrew personally, but you couldn't point him out today. None of them were up for it. But I think the management team have to take a fair amount of the blame as well. Like Malby was on at half time saying they were going to get a bollocken at half time. It didn't look like a team that had a bollocken. The first couple of minutes they came out, and then after that it was more of the same. So don't know, were they not listening to the manager or what, is he no up for it? Did he think they just had to turn up? Because this is a pattern now, of Hampden defeats. Something's gone wrong.
Well, Johnny, to bring you back in there, Richie's saying it's a pattern of Hampden defeats, but really, I suppose, if you were watching Celtic this season domestically, it was not really much of a surprise, was it really?
Well, no, but like the Wanyama, I think there's been a couple of games where he just doesn't seem to be interested, where he just thinks we're just going to turn up and win. I mean, that boy McGinn for St Mirren, I think he must only be 18, 19 or something. He totally bossed Wanyama for the full game, and Wanyama get took off, and I think the boy get took off after him. So he's done his job in nullifying Wanyama. So I think he's symptomatic, and I think that's who Len was talking about when he was slagging the players the day after the game, and I think for me he was talking about Wanyama, and that was proven by the fact that he took him off when he never takes him off. I don't know, but our domestic form's been pretty patchy. But Hampden, we lost to Kilmarnock, we lost to Hearts last season, we've lost to Ross County, all under Lennon's stewardship, so I don't know what the hell's happening with Hampden. But going back to the penalty, Mulgrew made a beeline for the ball, so it was obviously decided before the game that he was taking it. But if he's taking a penalty, he's taking it so he can just smash it into the net.
Well, but
side foot it, and the St Mirren goal is an absolute donkey. So him saving a penalty for he's a bad thing to have in your CV.
I'm just reading, Richie had mentioned sort of Lennon's after-match comments, but I'm just going to read them out to you here because he draws on that. He said, sort of, should have missed a penalty, lost our way. He said, Mulgrew is one of the best dead ball players in Britain. Decided to side foot it, and I expected him to whip it low and hard into the corner. So surely, if you're saying that Mulgrew made a beeline and he was picked, surely that had been discussed. If you do get a penalty, this is the way I want you to take it. Would that be the case?
Well, you're thinking about it, but how much preparation did he do for penalties? But then training, he says to Mulgrew, "Oh, Charlie, you're taking penalties. Just smash it in the net." Is that as far as it goes?
Well, that's generally what everybody tries to do with penalties. It's
the fact teams practice penalties. I'd say Juventus will practice some penalties for their game just in case they know.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't seem to take it seriously. How many penalties have we missed? About the last 10? I think it's maybe 7. But Hooper missed one penalty and then he got took off him. Did he? He's a striker, they should be hitting the penalties. It's a no-brainer. They should be having penalty competitions once a month or something to see who's the best penalty taker.
Surely, definitely once a week I would have him. And Lennon said today, before those comments about Mulgrew, I'm fed up with the penalties we miss, but it doesn't seem like he's doing anything really to rectify that issue. No, because it wouldn't have a problem otherwise. So clearly they're not doing something. And I thought Scott Brown was our penalty taker, wasn't he, there for a while as well? Yeah, and then he missed one. Did he miss one or did he miss 2? I can't remember. Jesus. You don't even... Now, I mean, I sat with my dad, me and him were watching it today, and I said that he's going to miss this. You knew by the cut of his jib, when he was on his way up to the ball. I felt anyway that he was going to do what he did. And I think at the other end, Richie, Paul McGowan showed really what Charlie Mulgrew should have done.
He was confident, I suppose. And he wanted to score. He knew he wasn't going to get many chances. Mulgrew just looked like he looked the whole game, lackadaisical, and just not focused. St Mirren, we talk about Celtic being crap, but St Mirren were decent enough, and they deserved to win. That's the thing. They were a better team, I thought. Celtic cuffed and puffed and did nothing, and St Mirren knew what they were about. They got their tactics right, I thought, and fair play to them, I suppose. But the first goal was just a joke. The guy's standing on himself, 12 yards out, and nobody's marking him. They're just standing about. They let the cross go in. They just weren't up for it the whole game. It was just like the Kilmarnock game. It was the exact same. It was just, and I was thinking before the game we should beat this mob, but then I was thinking, well, why should we beat them? Because we lost to Kilmarnock, we lost to Ross County, we never looked good at Hampden, even Falkirk. We beat them last season in the League Cup semi. Was it? We could have lost that game as well. So something they either don't like Hampden, or they're not being prepared properly, or it's hard to put your finger on. But that's another treble down the Swanee.
Yep. Richie, just sticking on that point, to go back to Lennon's coach, what he said was there was no leadership, and I'm not pointing the finger at Scott Brown. So who is he pointing the finger at exactly?
He's pointing the finger at Scott Brown, but then not pointing the finger at him. it looks like, if you're saying there's no leadership, you're looking at your captain. But I suppose then he's looking at other experienced players like Mulgrew, Ledley, and those kind of guys. But there's not, that isn't a team of leaders anyway. There's Wanyama possibly is a leader. Maybe he was referring to him, but none of them particularly lead by example or get stuck in and start shouting. There's no Roy Keane in that team or anything like that. It was about telling people, or giving people a bollocking when they need it. Mulgrew does to a certain extent, but I think he's just, to be honest, sometimes when Lennon, I feel, he's quick to pass the buck. He did take a little bit of the blame, but to be honest, for that performance today, I blame the manager 95%. Well, the players are, that's the way they are. Some of them will turn up thinking we're just turning up to win, or we're just turning up and we'll win. It's up to the manager to tell them if he sees that attitude in them, he beat it out of them. But it doesn't look like he's did that.
But for me, he set the team up all wrong. I mean, after near the start of the game, Mulgrew was humping the ball up the park. He had Blissard and Samaras getting in each other's ways. He had Samaras and Izagir getting in each other's way. Oh, Izagiri. They're not being corrected last week. Getting in each other's way. Just the shape was really awful. And Blissard he's not a starter, is he? He's an impact player.
I wanted to ask you, Johnny, about. I wanted to come to this. We may as well just do that now. We were talking generally about the game, but the changes in the last couple of weeks. You've had Wilson out. Banned for a couple of matches. You've had Matthews, who did brilliantly a couple of weeks ago and then was dropped. You've got Lassard coming in and out at the front. Is this a problem? Is it the fact that Lennon isn't really sticking to his best 11 that's producing results like this? Possibly, and the fact that Lustig's been one of our outstanding performers, and we've lost our two starting centre halves the last few games, so it would have made sense to make sure your fullbacks were the same at least. But he's chopped and changed that a couple of times, and that wouldn't have helped. And I wasn't happy with the fact that Lustig wasn't playing, because he's been a bit of a leader on the park recently. He's been solid, and he's willing to drive the team forward and get forward himself and get crosses in. I didn't think Matthews played well today. Really, I thought the boy Calvez that scored the first goal for St Mirren gave him a bit of a torrid time, the first half especially. Well, and would that be the sort of dip in form? Could it be due to be for the reason being that he was dropped and maybe his confidence is taking a bit of a knock, or what?
I don't know, because he has been playing no bad. I mean, he scored that belt and goal up in Arbroath, but Lustig has just been putting in better performances in him. But those two that's why the two of them have been playing so well recently, because the competition's there. So I don't know why, because Matthews was injured during the week against Dundee United, and he was a sub and Lustig was playing. Now the day he swapped it back over again, so maybe in Lennon's eyes Matthews has got the starting berth for the right back position. But even the guy Gershon, he must not be fit, because I was thinking when he signed he'd be straight into the team, and he's not even been a sub today. We were only allowed 5 subs a day, but I thought he would have been at least on the bench.
I would imagine he'd be coming back onto the bench, if not straight into the team for the next game after what we saw today. Richie, Lennon said the turning point was the 2 penalties. I didn't think either of them were. Should Charlie Mulgrew be starting in midfield for Donegal for the National League campaign, or what?
I don't agree with Lennon. I thought St Mirren's was a definite penalty. I don't know what Mulgrew was doing. Our penalty was debatable. You can see them not giving it, deflected off. It was a ricochet off the guy's chest or something on his leg or something on his arm. I mean, I wouldn't have been outraged if we didn't get that one. I thought theirs was definitely a penalty. And I don't agree it was a particular turning point. I mean, Celtic could still went on to lose that game 3-2, I think, if Mulgrew had scored. So I don't see how it was a turning point. That's ignoring the whole first half performance, which was dire. But I mean, who knows what would have happened? But I mean, St Mirren still, I think, went on to win the game. Why would we have played any different? Just because Mulgrew scored a penalty, we'd actually probably been even more lackadaisical than we were, even more. So I don't think that was a turning point. The whole performance was crap. and the full 90 minutes, and that's it.
Well, I read a comment today somewhere that said, you could tell sort of within the first 5 minutes whether or not Celtic are up for it or not for the game. So you would agree, wouldn't you?
Oh, you can. Oh, definitely you can. You know with that team that, and it's not going to get any better. And as the game goes on, sometimes you feel as the game goes on, Celtic, the opposition will get stronger. That's the way you felt. That's the way I felt at the Falkirk game last season. The Kilmarnock game, we all saw that coming from 60 minutes onwards. The Ross County game, that was a bit of an aberration. But those games you can see, the team, I don't know, they get nervous or they don't show any kind of steel. They don't necessarily win games in the second half. Usually, if we get an early goal in the first 10 minutes, you expect us to go and win again. But with this team, sometimes I feel if you're drawn and get into the last half hour, or if they're even getting beat, I'm not fully confident the way you used to be that we'll win it or we'll get a goal in the last 10 minutes. Did we score that many? I know we scored a late goal today, but that was just a consolation. I mean, I can't remember us winning that many games in the last couple of years in the last seconds or comebacks or being 1-0 down, 1-2-1 the way we used to. Maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but we don't seem to show that kind of steel at the moment, and that's a bit indicative of that team, I think, sometimes. What we're saying about leadership and those kind of things, when the chips are down, I wouldn't rely on a guy like Charlie Mulgrew when the chips are down. Hooper, maybe, the rest of them, they have a tendency to hide. Guys like Joe Ledley and Matthews and stuff like that, they have a tendency to hide, I think, personally.
No, I was going to dedicate a wee bit of chat here today to Joe Ledley, because I had identified him watching him going, I haven't seen Ledley at all, and then I think he was fouled or he got fouled, and I was like, Jesus, there he is, he's on the pitch. Johnny, a bad day at the office for him?
Yeah, and I was surprised that he stayed on the park ahead of Wanyama, which makes me feel even stronger, the fact that Lennon was having a go at Wanyama. Because Ledley, even towards the end when it's 3-1, I think there was 5 minutes to go, Ledley missed a header that was easily to score. That kind of summed up his afternoon. A lot of his passes were just going back the way, going sideways, the same kind of thing that Key used to get slagged for. Joe Ledley was standing out on the left, him and bloody Izagiri and Samaras doing wee tippy-tappy passes to each other, gone nowhere. And then Commons come on, and there was 4 of them there, all these left-footed guys, all just passing the ball to each other, and didn't seem to be in a rush to get the ball forward at all. But see, going back to Lassad's shot was going past her when Goodwin touched it. I don't think that was on target at all.
Right, is that right?
I think so. I think we were pretty. I watched it. The man that puts the videos on the huddleboard, I was watching him when I got back to the Vogue after the game. It looked like it was going wide anyways. And I don't think that was a penalty. Whereas I think theirs was a stone wall, because Mulgrew's getting the reason how he's thrown up in there, and he didn't look as though he really cared.
And even that though, I suppose we're trying to look a wee bit more charitably on the match. If we had twice in the first half, we hit the bar, and it would have been a much different game, isn't that right? If those had went in.
Well, definitely would have. But the way it may have spurred us on to take our time in the ball and pass the ball. But I mean, the goal we scored, that was about the only time that we took our time and thought about doing something incisive, and we got a goal out of it.
Fair enough. And I just want to... Somebody in the huddle board said the day about Hooper, said, take yourself off and take your barber with you. That rose a smile. I think it was only time to smile all afternoon. But yeah, so we haven't really, I mean, are these, with 2 matches coming up, with a match on Wednesday night and a match next week in the Cup on Sunday against in Calcutta against Wraith. What do you think Lennon needs to do here this week to sort of to pull the bootstraps up, Richie?
No, he needs to, first of all, he needs to look at himself, and then get them told. You have to put the effort in from the first kick-off in every game, not just when you feel like it, and this team isn't good enough. We all think this team is great, and we're getting, because Hooper is getting linked with Spurs, Wanyama is getting linked with Man United, Izagiri is getting linked with West Ham, some of our players are in demand, but that doesn't mean it. And St Mirren are going to turn up and say, these guys are, or this guy may be going to Spurs, let's stand back and watch him. They never. And the players need to be told that. No, they have a tendency to get too big for their boots, so you should have them told that, I mean, what, 25,000 Celtic fans there, did they paid good money to watch them? Maybe they couldn't be bothered and they had better things to do on a Sunday, but the Celtic supporters didn't have anything better to do. That was their weekend, and those guys, they sometimes they just don't care particularly. It's not really a big deal to them, so you should you should be reminding them that that's his job. But you just get sick of them sometimes, the amount of money they get paid and you're watching them today and some of them just couldn't be bothered.
And speaking of that, the wee brother was up, my dad was telling me this morning, he came in at 5 o'clock this morning, 4 o'clock this morning from the Cliftonville celebrations and straight out, up and change straight out and away to the boat. I'm sure he's sick.
Do you think Charlie Mulgrew is thinking about that when he's sitting at home tonight, or Joe Ledley on 25 grand a week? No. Does he couldn't care less?
No, I think it's safe to say they're back at their mansions tonight, not giving a fiddlers.
Johnny, one of the things we've not even talked about for the game, because the outfield players were so bad, is how bad Zaluska was.
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up. I actually hadn't got that written down, but I was on the huddle board earlier on, and people were saying about not blaming Zaluska. Jesus, I thought he was terrible. But
then you think about it, him being in nets instead of Foster just shows you about kind of the multitude of sins that Foster's been hiding a lot of the season. Because Foster would have saved the third goal, which at the time I thought was a bullet by Thompson, but it was Zaluska's chocolate wrist.
Yeah.
And he just fell for the penalty, and I don't know, you could maybe give a portion of Taddy the blame for the first goal as well. He just stood and kind of looking when the ball's coming across him. But we would have probably only conceded one goal today if Foster was in goals. So that kind of brings it home how important it is for him to be playing against Juventus.
So I suppose it's just same old Celtic with the shade keeper, it's what we've grown up with. But just to pick you up on that, we spoke the other day about our Player of the Year contenders, and I was saying Wanyama will probably walk it, but you two were adamant that Foster would lift the gong this year. So today, I suppose, bear that out.
I suppose you're right. I mean, the players' Player of the Year, or the professionals vote each other, might not be Foster because a lot of his big performances have been in Europe, but he'll get the Writers' Player of the Year, I'd imagine. Wanyama maybe get the Players' one because he's a machine and he just brushes all the SPL players off.
Fair enough. Richie, anything you want to add about today?
No, rather forget about it. I hate the League Cup anyway. It's a Huns Cup. But I agree on Zaluska. That guy's just not even good enough to be reserve keeper. I mean, we talked about him last week saying he's a half decent reserve. I don't even think he is. I think, it's not a big deal, I suppose, but we need to get rid of him and get a half decent reserve in, or bring a boy up or something, because the guy's no confidence whatsoever. I mean, Johnny's right. There's Thompson one he should have saved. I wouldn't blame him for the first. The penalty, Forster might have saved that, might not have. But I mean, he spilled another one at 3-1 as well. He just pushed it right back. I mean, a crap shot piece of mind. It was just pathetic. And there was
another one too where he came out. It might have been a corner. It was a whip in from the side, but he came out and punched it directly into a St Mirren player's foot. And you're just like, Jesus Christ! Surely it was as easy to catch.
He's thick, but he did that today. But during the week, he kicked it right off the other guy's dome. He could have kicked it anywhere, and he kicked it right at the guy. I mean, he could have kicked it earlier, he could have kicked it late, but he waited until the guy was right in front of him and then just booted it. No brains whatsoever. So he's useless. He's even worse.
That was John.
Sorry, Johnny, do you want to come in there?
That was John Daly. Anybody else would have beat Zaluska to the ball during the week apart from John Daly. He was lucky it was him.
That's right. You're not a fan, but it's funny, he's like a hangover from the Mowbray era. That just sort of hasn't gone away.
He has loser written on him. He's just a loser. He is a Mowbray player. He's just a total loser. He's not a winner whatsoever.
And that's the other thing too, Richie, just to pick you up on that as well. What was saying to Johnny earlier on about the changes in the game, the changes in the squad. Sorry, surely too, if you're a centre back and you're looking behind and seeing Lucas Zaluska there, you may have something else on your mind as well as the job that you're supposed to be doing on your marking.
It definitely has an effect on it. I mean, maybe the first goal, Foster would have been screaming, clear it, or something like that, whereas I'd say Zaluska, I wouldn't say he's much a talker at all, doesn't seem to have that kind of personality. So that could make a difference, definitely makes a difference to the defence. You know, the two centre halves get a good relationship going with the keeper, and I wouldn't say any of the players have any trust whatsoever in Zaluska. I was hearing sorry, John, and you go.
There's a couple of times where the defenders or the fullbacks maybe should have passed the ball back to Zaluska, because they certainly would have for Foster, but they've ended up just putting it down the line, and I clocked that at the game today. So that maybe shows a lack of confidence in Zaluska.
I think it definitely does, Johnny. You know, you could see it. You could see it, especially as the match went on. You know, they were saying keep the ball away from it. You know, because you could see they were hoofing it down the sideline, and there was just nobody there. Or there was like one occasion they actually, I think it was Scott Brown, was in the near side lane, and he hoofed it down, and there was actually two St Mirren players waiting on it. You know, it wasn't even just one. You know, it wasn't like no, but there was one waiting, took the ball, and passed it to the next guy right beside him. And you're like, for Jesus' sake! But I think Zaluska might have had a hand in that. Johnny, we're going to talk later on about the next gen. You're going to give us a wee update about the next gen thing. But what I wanted to say to you was, what I also found interesting today was it was almost like a half a Celtic youth select from about 10 years ago as well. You had McGowan, Curry, Dunsantton, all these sort of players that Celtic developed, isn't that right?
Aye, Jim Goodwin as well.
Goodwin, yep.
Aye, pretty much, because there was a St Mirren fan from my work, he's about 45 or something. I've never texted him in my life, or he didn't have my phone number, he somehow got my phone number and texted me saying get up you.
And was
and that was my... I just kind of, I know him just through work, but he just texted me abuse kind of thing, and that's what I texted him back saying it's kind of good that he's got half an ex-Celtic youth team playing for these kind of thing.
And the other thing that I found interesting, going back to the goalkeeper situation, was there was a goalkeeper on the bench that I'd never heard of.
Well, I was going to mention him later on. He was playing for Celtic in the next game. He played in the first 3 games, but I think he might have missed the last couple. I thought he was maybe injured. I was actually wondering what had happened to him. He's a young Italian guy, Leonardo Fassan, and for the games I've seen him in the next gen, he looks pretty decent.
Well, sure, we'll hold off then, and you can give us a rundown when we go there. So I take it it's good enough to pull the curtain down on this match, isn't it, today, and move along?
Well, can I just say one thing? There's one positive I took for the game today, and it was because I watched some of the Juventus game last night. Mm-hmm. See our goal today, the way we dragged their fullbacks about, and it ended up being Jim Goodwin get dragged out to try and shut down Scott Brown, and then Hooper's at the back post to knock the ball in. That was exactly the way that Genoa scored against Juventus last night.
Right.
So that just shows that's the kind of thing we should be doing. We should be, against Juventus, we should be getting in behind our fullbacks, play to our strengths, get people overlapping, get the crosses in, and Hooper will be there like he was today.
And I have to say,
that was one of the positives I took for the day.
Yeah, I have to say it was a good goal. You know, it was well worked, and Brown's cross I thought was excellent. You know, very very dangerous cross, and I suppose Hooper hadn't much to do really. He just sort of biffed it in from there, isn't that it?
Well, he started after the move, Hooper. It was a good move actually, but it was about our only decent bit of football the whole game. It was an excellent goal.
But it was almost a carbon copy of the Genoa goal last night, honestly. It was kind of freaky when I seen it at the time. So that's what we should be aiming for against Juventus, attacking their fullbacks.
Well, let's hope that all those employees at Celtic Park who listen to this podcast will pass that golden nugget on from our chief scout, Johnny Forbes. So, right, let's chin this now and move along and move on to the second part of the podcast. Okay, part 2 tonight. A couple of months back we had a bit of a roundup on the Next Gen series that the Celtic youth teams have been taking part of, and it proved to be a very, very popular. We got a lot of feedback actually saying that Johnny's reports are pretty comprehensive, and we decided just to revisit it now. We're back into the second half of the season. Celtic, we'll discuss Celtic's fate in the competition in a minute. But Johnny, you've kept a keen eye anyway in the last couple of months. Give us a wee rundown from where we were when we last talked about the Next Gen.
Well, when I done it the last time, we'd played 3 games. We'd played 3, won 1 and lost 2. We'd played 2 home games and humped PSV Eindhoven, and we get beat off a very good Sporting Lisbon team. And we'd been beaten 2-1 down at Villa Park. So since then, we drew with Villa up at Firhill after we were 2-0 down. We came back to draw 2 each, and I didn't get to the game because I think it was just after Barcelona, the day after Barca.
That's right.
Apparently they done really well. We came back for 2 down and were unlucky not to win the game. So then the last 2 games were away from home, which was Sporting Lisbon beat us 2-1 over there, and PSV beat us 1-0, so that means that we unfortunately came bottom of the group by quite some distance. So we played 6, 1-1, drew 1, lost 4. Sporting Lisbon won the group on 12 points, Villa came second in 10, and Eindhoven finished in 9, we had 4, so pretty much became rock bottom, but a lot of the games were 3-1, 2-1, well we won 3-1, we got beat 2-1 3 times. Well, we got beat 2-1 3 times, and we got beat 1-0, so it was not like we were getting humped.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of margins. And to establish how much and how inconsistent youth teams are, I mean, out of all those 6 groups of 4, and out of all the groups, no team won more than 4 games. No team went undefeated, apart from Juventus. They're the only team that didn't lose a game in the group stages. But the whole point in this is to develop players. I mean, results, you want your team to win, but the whole point of this competition is to develop the players and get them used to travelling across Europe, getting used to this kind of environment, playing against guys from different countries, against different techniques, different cultures, staying in hotels, all that kind of thing. It's to develop them and make them into Champions League players. That's what it's all about. So even though we've came bottom of the group, I'd say the players have learned quite a lot experience.
That was actually going to be my next question for you. What did we learn as a squad and as a club? This is our 2nd year in the next year, isn't that right? But we were not 1 season before.
Yeah, we came 3rd in the group last season. It's expanded this season, so on the basis, if we had finished where we finished last season, we would have qualified even though we came 3rd last season, because this season the top 2 of each group qualified plus the 4 best 3rd place teams, so we would have qualified last season, whereas this season we came bottom, so we would now get through. I think we had Sporting Lisbon in the group last season as well, but I mean, I don't know what they've learned, but I'd imagine the players have went through a steep learning curve against these guys. I mean, for Hull against Sporting Lisbon, they got a bit of a football lesson. Sporting Lisbon were just sharper, their passing was more slick, their first touch was much better than our guys, which seems to be the norm when we play in Europe against teams like Benfica and stuff. So these boys learning about that kind of stuff at the age of 17, 18, as opposed to maybe making it Celtic and playing the Champions League when they're 25. It's better that they learn it now when they're soaking up like a sponge, as to when they're older and they've been out drinking and their brain cells are way too much.
And on the point there, just about where they played, because when I saw it advertised that they were playing at Firhill, I was like, surely is the point of this, is the point of this competition that they're not playing in reserve team stadia, that they're all being played in big stadiums, so that players can get a feel for playing at Anfield or Stadio de Luge or wherever, that whatever clubs are taking part, the young players are playing in these big stadiums. Why then did we switch to Firhill?
I don't know, I think Celtic just had a deal with Partick Thistle to play their under 21 games there, so what included in that was the next gen games. But a lot of the teams in the competition don't play their games in their stadium. I think a load of them play their training complexes and where they've got stands and things like that, so I wouldn't read too much in it. They probably should have done it at Parkhead they'd have probably get bigger crowds.
Yeah.
Going to Parkhead for a start. Yeah. But the crowd at Sporting Lisbon game was pretty good.
How many do you think was there? How many would you say if you were taking a sort of straw poll?
At the Sporting Lisbon game, I'd say there was about 1,000 people there. Which is, I think that was a Monday night as well, so it's not bad for a Monday night. Scouting up to Firhill when it's pretty chilly, you know what I mean?
No, it's not. 1,000 people out in the night like that's not to be sniffed at, definitely not. Okay, so looking ahead to next gen, will it be the same batch of young players that are in this year's, or is it, do you sweep the boards and start again with the next crowd that are coming up through the ranks?
Well, I think most of the players next year, it's an under 19s competition, and you can have 3 guys who are 19, and your team, which Budera and Natajic, he suffered because of that this season, early on, because Irvin, Twardzik and Chalmers were all 19 as well, so they guys were getting in ahead of him. But I think because of his form in the 21 league, he came into it later on in the competition.
Right.
So I think a lot of these guys, I think Heron and Fraser and all these kind of guys, I think they're all going to be turning 19 next season. You've got the likes of Stuart Finlay, he's a 17-year-old centre-back. He was playing this season, so he'll still be eligible, so it'll be interesting to see how the next crop come through, but there's meant to be some cracking young players coming through, so it'll be good to see a different crop, because out of the guys that are there just now, I'd struggle to see many of them pushing into the first team squad. I mean, the two guys who get new contracts, Daniel Fisher got a new contract, and Atajic got a new contract. I mean, through what I've seen in the youth team this season for Hull, they're the guys who have been the best players. Daniel Fisher's a bit like Kagat. He's a bit raw, but he's fast and he gets down the wing. Then I think he deserves his new contract. So it kind of speaks volumes that those two guys have got new contracts. So I think Jackson having got one previously, but I'd be surprised if many of these guys get through that are in the next gen squad this season, get into the first team. You know, I think Patrick Bardzik only got a new contract to keep his brother happy, because the one that's in the first team, I think he got a 2-year deal, and his brother Patrick got a 1-year deal.
I've heard that said that you know, one of the Tawarjiks is being kept there just to keep the other one sort of happy, but I'm sure Lawwell's not going to let that last for much longer.
I know they'll not be on much wages, will they? And I think they've got high hopes for. I always get mixed up, Patrick and Philip, but one's in the first team.
I think it's Philip.
So I think they've got high hopes for him, so kind of keep him happy. They keep his brother on, but his brother, if I've seen him, he's an even more infuriating version of Samaras. so you can imagine what kind of player he's like.
The other thing I wanted to ask you was, were you surprised when Atajic got his new contract? Because there had been chat that he was on his way home.
Well, supposedly he was going back to, who was it he played for in Sweden? Was it Molde? I can't remember.
Yeah, one of the teams over there anyway. But
Malmo, I think it was actually. But then he'd been injured quite a lot last season. But this season he's been on form, and he's quite a silky player. He's quite clinical. Maybe he's a bit lazy, but he knows where the goal is, and he scored some cracking goals. He scored an overhead kick, and it was an absolute cracker. So he's been rewarded for his performances. I don't know if he'll get a 1-year or 2-year deal, but I think they'll give him another year to see if he'll progress.
Or I wonder, is there a development issue, you know, where, you know, if he does move, then we'll get some sort of compensation if he's there for a wee bit longer? Would it be something like that, or would it be just simply because, you know, have they upped his money because he's good?
Probably a bit of both, you know. Give him a new deal to see if he progresses, and if no, then we'll maybe be able to print him because he's got a decent pedigree. We might get something if he signs for someone else. Next year, I think Celtic get a 3-year thing where we get to play in this competition for 3 years solid, and then I think it gets reviewed. So I don't know what will happen after that 3-year period, although I don't see many other Scottish clubs getting involved in this. But UEFA have started getting their dirty paws. I think they're going to try and create their own version of the next gen.
Right.
So interesting to see how that develops, because they won't be getting involved with the next gen. I think they'll be trying to start like a youth Champions League. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops, because the guys that are in the next gen have put a hell of a lot of effort into the competition.
It wouldn't be like UEFA just to walk in and sweep the decks and put their own band up on the top of the Titanic.
They just see pound signs.
Exactly. Yeah. Although I'm not sure there would be much money in the next gen at the minute. You know, I would imagine if you were getting crowds of 10,000 a game, UEFA would start seriously considering that sort of thing. But I'm not sure that there would be the money just yet.
I don't know. They get the games on Eurosport, and I'm pretty certain they've got quite a lot of sponsorships as well. So it's only something that's going to grow. You know, there's only so much money they can milk to the Champions League before they start thinking, what can we do next? And they'll be making these young guys into superstars before they've even learned their trade. And
if you were watching that, you know, you clearly have been keeping an eye on it. If you were a neutral watching over the last sort of 2 seasons, would you be of the mind that Celtic would be included again? You know, would they want Celtic back again?
I think so. We're a big club and they bring a lot to the table. And the fact that Tony Watt, I mean, when I was reading the Next Gen website, he gets mentioned as one of the highlights of the series so far. The fact that he's progressed from playing in the Next Gen in 2012, 2011, from scoring against Barcelona in a game in that competition to progressing to being in the first team and scoring against Barcelona in the Champions League. So he's a shining example of how players progress from one stage to the next.
Very true.
So that kind of thing helps us.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. There was one other player I wanted to ask you about. I don't know if you have seen him at all. Do you remember halfway through last season we had sort of a defensive crisis, and young Marcus Fraser was drafted in and did really well. You know, when he played, he was talked through the game. He said by some of the pros, but it seemed to me the lad looked absolutely sound. There was no issues with him. Has he been featuring at all, or is he the year above, or you know, where is it?
Yeah, I'm not sure if he's 17 or 18. I've got a feeling he might be 17. I think I said earlier on that he's 18, but I think he might be young, because I think I was commenting at the time the fact that he's the captain and he's still got a couple of years to play in the team. So he's the captain. He's pretty solid. You know, he gets a hard time off strikers, but he seems a bit of a leader. And I think he seems to have a good head on his shoulders for what I've seen him. But you never know if these guys will break through. But he played well against Rennes when he came on that time. You know, he didn't seem to get much ass at all.
No,
and he seems a big, strong boy. But again, it's up to him over the next year or two to see if he can make strides into the first team.
Richie, sorry for sort of neglected you here because Johnny was giving us such a comprehensive update and roundup of what's going on. But next gen, would you be happy to see Celtic stay in the competition next year? Should they bow out in the sort of anticipation that UEFA might be creating some other edifice that they'd want to be part of, or what do you think?
No, I don't mean it's good for Celtic. I mean, Johnny's saying I don't think it's that important about where we finish in the group. I suppose if Johnny, I mean, I'd be more interested in seeing if any of these players are good enough for the first team. To be honest, what Johnny's saying, it doesn't sound like they are. Maybe Adjutic or Twazik or something like that. But I mean, we definitely need to be involved in those kind of things. We need to get our own in, you know, in terms of Europe and being, you know, a club that's involved, that's invited to these kind of things, that's involved in these kind of things. So I don't know about you. I mean, don't see the difference in UEFA. I mean, getting involved or some private company, I don't think it really matters. I don't think either of them have got the good of the game at heart anyway. So I'm not that bothered about that. But we want to be in the best one. If the UEFA one takes over and becomes the best one, we should be in that one. If it doesn't, and next gen still the one to be in, we should be in that one. So. You need to be in that. You need to be in it. Everybody else is in it, and you know, and it's the only way players will. You know, they're not. We've said it before. They're not going to learn much playing against Inverness Cali on a cowfield. So they're going to learn stuff playing against. I mean, this Sport Lisbon team sound good, and I'm sure they'll learn things for them. And you know, who knows if Tony Watt. I mean, I know Tony Watt seems to have fallen away lately, but who knows if he would have came through if he hadn't played next gen, if he had just been playing, you know, against, you know, SPL teams, youth teams, then, you know, but like Johnny said, he scored against Barca in both games, and you know, who knows what that did for him, his confidence and his belief and all those kind of things. So we need to be in it, and I don't really care who's running it or whatever, just as long as we're keeping in. But if you're not going to get any player, like I said before, it doesn't really matter if you win the thing. If you're not going to get any players coming into the first team, then it becomes pointless. But hopefully we get one or two, you know, every couple of years. And you know, we've spoken about it before that Celtic need to be bringing people through, and then you selling them on, as it seems to be.
Absolutely, and reinvesting back into the system. Johnny, anything else you wanted to add before we draw this one to a close as well?
I just Richie saying he doesn't care who runs the competition, kind of thing. That's kind of annoyed me a wee bit, because the guys that have started up the next gen, it's been their concept, and now you've got UEFA maybe coming in and they're seeing pound signs, and I just find that a wee bit annoying. But it's interesting that the guys that run the next gen, the finals last year, they play the next round, and then they have two semi-finals in the final. Last season they had it in London, and then this season they're still deliberating where it's going to be. But I think it's pretty much between Abu Dhabi and Dubai, and the reasons for that, apart from big bags of money, which is clearly the real reason for it, is they're saying that the Abu Dhabi and Dubai are cities that are up and coming, and that their primary attraction to these cities is players from this year's next gen will be hitting their peak performance age when the World Cup in Qatar comes about in 2022.
Right, so we'll all get a sneak preview as to who the greatest players in the world sort of 10 years before are going to be.
and how they'll acclimatise to playing under fake clouds and all that kind of thing.
Oh, fuck.
But really they'll just be getting tons of money.
Aye, I couldn't think of anywhere playing worse to play football than in the middle of a desert. You know, don't even start me. Just to go back, what I wanted to pick you up on was we mentioned the young lad Fassan, the Italian goalkeeper. You said you'd seen a bit of him. Give us a wee snifter as to what we can expect, because at the end of the day, he could be at some point that the season before it's over. That wee lad could get a start.
Yeah, but it was a different goalie with subs in the last two home games.
Right.
I can't for the life of me remember his name. But Fassan, the game that stands out was the Sporting Lisbon game at Firhill. They got beat 2-1, but he had some really, really good saves, and he was confident coming for the ball, and he had good hands, and he was strong, and he was tall, and he commanded his box. So I think, I don't know what age he is, but he looked really good. And I remember trying to find out more about him at the time, but there was nothing much I could find out about him without speaking to any of the Celtic coaches, who sadly I don't know, and I can't get hold of him to do an interview.
And just to, I suppose, expand on that, Lennon, we lost this keeper from Nantes that was signed a couple of months ago. You know, and it seems to me we let him go and Foster gets injured. But Lennon has identified that as a position he would want to bring someone in before the transfer window shuts. For that reason, I suppose that he's been on the ground after Zaluska. You're down into kids. Is there anybody that stands out that Celtic would be going out at this stage and trying to get?
In terms of a keeper, I don't think so. I can't think of anybody, but like I say, Foster. I don't know if this is a small thing of Foster, if it's going to be an issue throughout the season or whatever. But I suppose it doesn't really matter. We're going to win the league. We're at the League Cup, but I don't want to see Zaluska in goals again because he's rotten. But I suppose at this stage, what kind of keepers are available? Yeah, I suppose you could probably get an experienced keeper on loan or something like that that's better than Zaluska, even somebody we've not heard of. But I mean, because Zaluska's third rate, and that's not really good enough. Don't think for Celtic to have a keeper as bad as that as reserve. You should have somebody half decent.
If Foster's still injured for Wednesday night against Kilmarnock, I would play the boy Fassan. Because what's that to lose really? Playing Bobs, we're well ahead in the league. And maybe to gear the boy a game ahead of Zaluska, who probably isn't going to be here next season. Yeah,
hold on.
I didn't know we let go of that goalie we signed in the summer.
Aye, well, he's away. The guy from Nantes.
Alright,
he's out. Lennon said last week, he confirmed that he left, and that Lennon said it's still a problem position. But I don't think you're right, Johnny. I think Zaluska not saying a fucking big deal there recently. I think he did. I think he signed like a 3-year extension or something.
He did, I'm sure he did.
Oh, really?
I'm sure you're right.
It didn't he, Richie? Aye,
I'm sure you're right, yeah.
Which totally baffled me, for fuck's sake. And what I was saying about this guy, the keeper that we brought in the last day of the window there, at least Danny Milosevic got himself photographed outside the park. I don't remember ever even seeing an image, a picture of this guy, the whole time he was here.
I don't even know who you're talking
about. I can't even remember his name, but anyway, we were saying him from France.
Right.
And he's out of there. He's through the coop. Anyway.
Yeah. But one good thing about the transfer window, Bangura's away again.
Oh, where did he go this time?
He's away to Elfsborg. And hopefully he'll score a few goals and they'll be paying a part of his wage and they'll be stupid enough to give us 100,000 for him.
I can't believe you're saying this now. There's a guy there that scored a wonder goal against Steaua Bucharest. A lovely header. Should be ashamed.
He scored an absolute dinger against PSV as well. He's left foot. They skinned a guy and absolutely leathered it into the tap bin. But he was the last person I watched a YouTube video. He's put me right off YouTube videos, Bangura. So I watched it and I thought his YouTube video, he looked really calm in front of goal and all that kind of thing. Then I was really excited about watching him play and he's been absolutely disgusting. And I'm not watching YouTube ever again to outfit with us.
Richie didn't want to go into the transfer window too much because, well, number one, we haven't really had any indication that we're going to get anybody else. And number two, sort of, over the last couple of weeks, there hasn't been really anything to talk about. We've had a couple of players in, but nothing sort of to set the head of fire. Richie, reports on Twitter tonight that Norwich are going to come in with an increased bid of 8 million for Hooper. Would you sell at that price?
No, I said last week, no, I don't think we should sell him until the summer. I don't know why people would want to go to Norwich anyway. Well, I mean, what's the script with Spurs? I mean, he was up watching them on Wednesday night. It was him they were watching. It doesn't seem to have been anybody else. I mean, are they going to make a bid or what? Because, you think Hooper, or are they wait until the summer to bid for him? You think if Hooper knows that Spurs are interested in him, then why would he go to Norwich? I mean, I can't see Norwich spending £8 million either. I mean, they've been like with all sorts of strikers. Some guy, some African guy plays. They had him on loan or they had him on trial or something like that. So, I don't know if they actually really want to buy Hooper or if I don't know really what they know what they're doing. They want a striker, but you seem to have about 4 or 5 options. I say Hooper is one that is out of their reach, to be honest. And why would he go to Norwich? Wouldn't make any sense. I don't think if Spurs are interested in him.
Hooper's not actually come out and said a thing. You know, it's probably his agent that's stirring all this.
Oh, I know. That's what I'm saying. You know, I'm not worried about him going to Norwich because I don't think he would. If he knows Spurs are interested in him, then why wouldn't you just hang on? And maybe if they're not going to move to summer, you just hang on, play the Champions League last 16 that you've worked so hard to get in there, and then hopefully a much better team than Norwich could end up getting relegated. You know, they could go into free fall.
Well,
you know, they're in free fall at the moment. They get put out the cup at home.
I mean, that's what I was going to say. You know, they had a very bad result yesterday, so there's a chance that they'll go out for a panic signing. You know, and Houghton might be saying to the board, "Listen, you have to get me somebody here. You know, I need a boot in the arse, or we are going to go back down." And if they did come in with an £8 to £10 million bid, if it keeps them up, you know, that's a paid for. It's the same position Southampton were in last year when they were going up. You know, I couldn't believe they actually didn't break the bank to get him. Very, very strange.
And that's a fair point, man.
Yeah, no, that's totally. You know, there was a lot of bad results yesterday. You know, for English teams, and if any sort of panicking managers wanted to do a chicken licking up to their board, you know, a couple of days before the transfer window, it would have been a very smart move. You know.
Geez, oh man, if you'd done a kamikaze football coupon at the weekend, you'd have done an absolute fortune.
There were some of the ones I was watching on Twitter, and some of the people's coupons were bait within nuts. You know, we were just like, "One, it was a good day for the bookies." Definitely.
Yeah. Well, as a boy, we were at the game the other day. He started pretty much celebrating when we got a penalty. He seen Mulgrew was going to hit it because he'd put Mulgrew on to score the first goal of the second half. There's another boy giving him grief for saying he's not even scored yet, and he's like, "Shut up, he'll score," and then he misses.
Oh God, oh man.
He was getting dogs abuse.
Scud. Scud.
See, you talked about Hooper. I wouldn't sell him. If we get 10 million plus the new, I would take it. Otherwise, it's worth taking the risk of having him for Juventus and selling him for less in the summer. Because his goals could get us through against Juventus, which would get us more money by getting to the quarterfinals. So unless we get 10 million in the next few days, they shouldn't be going anywhere.
And
I think Lennon's pretty much said as much.
Well, Juventus aren't holding back. They've been out shopping.
Aye, Anelka.
And Llorente as well is supposed to be.
They signed Anelka, did they?
Aye. For the end of the season.
Right. I was in the pub last night and I was half watching the Juventus match, and like Johnny says, I wasn't particularly impressed by them, so I think we have a decent chance against them, and I agree we'd have to keep Hooper. But you know, they don't look brilliant. They're not very fast. Anyway, they don't have any real pace, which usually bothers us. So, like I've said before, I think it'll be close, and I think going into the second half of the second game, we'll definitely give them a shout. I don't know. I thought we'd beat St Mirren as well.
I watched about 20 minutes of our match last week, and Paul Pogba was just, oh Jesus, I can't remember who they were playing, but he just totally ripped them apart. So we'll just have to suck it and see, as the wise man once said.
But they didn't. Pirlo's injured as well, don't they? And they must be getting kept for the Champions League. Because Genoa was down to 10 men, and Juventus were struggling to get the killer ball put through, so they kept having to go wide and get the crosses in. Genoa just kept clearing it. So with Pirlo in the team, he'll be more likely to get a killer ball, so it's important that we stop him slipping the killer ball through and get them to go wide and get crosses in, because that's where we'll probably do well with Wilson and Ambrose, hopefully back together again. That's what we need today, is make them go wide and get crosses in.
No, we did discuss that a couple of weeks ago, but the job you do in Pirlo, it would be great if he was out. We stayed out, it really would. You know. Anyway, lads, if there's anything else to add, I come and draw this absolute farce to a close. Richie?
No. Kill it.
Good, kill it. Good. Kill it with fire. Johnny, anything to add before we go?
No, kill it with fire. Kill Ziliska with fire as well. When you're at it.
No problem. Listen, thanks very much to both of you. I was going to say it there, but listen, thanks to the two of you for joining us tonight. Martin D was supposed to be on with us, but his nipper isn't too well, so fingers crossed it's nothing too serious, and he'll be back on hopefully next week. As well as that too, I suppose we can't really draw the podcast to a close without mentioning Chris McGuigan's favourite team, Cliftonville, who had a great League Cup win, first time in a million years, last night live on Sky, and anybody who watched it and who's that sort of know the modern football sort of stuff, that was definitely the match for you. Cliftonville scored 4 and it was magic. It was played on a swimming pool in Quagmire, you know, so well done to all the red men who are listening, and I'm sure there's some of our own John, I think, was at the match in 32, so happy days there.
Was he?
Well, I shamed him into going. I tortured him all week on Twitter. According to Jerry Stretch, he was there. Haven't seen any evidence, but fingers crossed he did. He would have seen a good game if he did go. Okay, so all that remains is for me to say thank you very much, Johnny boy.
Right, cheers, Marty.
And thanks to you too, Richard, you ledgy.
Cheers, Marty.
Alright, see you next week, boys.
Right, see you later on.
Well, that's us for another week. We love the feedback, be it good, bad or simply abusive. And you can tweet us up at @Temporary You can email us at temporarystand@hellhairmedia.com, or you can get us in the usual message boards. And this week's panel were Marty, and you can add him on Twitter. It's @CelticChuck. Richie, his handle is @RichieKid. And last but not least, Johnny, and that's @JohnnyForbes. Cheers for listening. Good night, God bless, and remember, keep it faith.